Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're taking a really fascinating journey into a classical Sanskrit epic, Aśvaghoṣa's Buddhacharita.
That's right.
You might think it's just a straightforward biography, maybe, but we're going to uncover something quite a bit deeper.
And the piece you shared, Lineage Interrupted, that's really our guide here. It uses Bourdieu to look at the Buddhacharita, gives it a really sharp focus.
Absolutely. So, yeah, on the surface, it's the Buddha's early life story. But our mission, let's say, in this deep dive, is to see how this epic, even when it's talking about his life before enlightenment, is really grappling with these huge ideas, power, lineage, inheritance, and then renunciation, giving it all up.
And it seems like such a contradiction, right?
Exactly. It builds up this whole royal world so meticulously, only for Siddhartha to just walk away.
And that's where bringing in Pierre Bourdieu is so helpful. The analysis leans on his ideas about symbolic power, how dynasties keep going, that stuff from his book on the state.
Okay, yeah, let's unpack that a bit. Bourdieu. The source explains his argument. It's that power isn't just like soldiers and laws.
Right, not just overt force.
It's embedded deep down in social stuff.
Yeah.
Family traditions, who your ancestors were, rituals, all these things that make power structures feel, well, normal.
Natural, almost inevitable, like they're just the way things are. He called it symbolic power.
Symbolic power, okay.
Yeah.
It makes hierarchies seem legit, yeah, so you don't really question them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And for monarchies especially, the family, the bloodline, that's absolutely crucial for passing this power down. It's all about dynastic reproduction.
So bring it back to the Buddhacharita. The main argument we're exploring is that the poem goes to great lengths to build this world, just saturated with that dynastic power.
The sacredness of the royal family, the pressure for an heir, the big rituals around birth and succession. It's like this whole machine.
A machine designed to keep inherited power going.
And that's what makes Siddhartha's renunciation so explosive. When he walks away from the throne, the family, it's not just personal, it's a direct challenge to that whole understanding of power.
It's like the ultimate countermove in a system obsessed with lineage is to just opt out.
Precisely. A profound refusal.
And this gets even more interesting when you think about the genre itself. The Buddhacharita is a mahakavya, a type of Sanskrit epic poetry.
Right. And according to the source, these weren't just entertainment, they often had a political function.
Like PR for kings.
Yeah.
Crafting this glorious narrative to make their rules seem, divinely ordained, rightful.
Exactly. They had these specific elements, these tropes. Long genealogies linking the king to gods or heroes, stories of miraculous births, sacred marriages to cement alliances, tales of warrior sons. It all paints this picture.
A picture of legitimate rule through bloodline. These were serious works, often sponsored by the courts. Kind of a mix of myth, history, poetry.
Yeah.
All polished up.
And the analysis mentions other examples like Kālidāsa's poems, the Raghuvaṃśa, the Kumarasambhava.
Right, how they show royal births as these big cosmic events, divinely planned. Lineage itself is sacred.
Totally. The king embodies divine favor. And the main goal, unbroken continuity. Keep the dynasty going.
That continuity is presented almost like the natural order of the universe itself. The king maintains dharma, the right way of things.
And the Buddhacharita starts out looking like it fits right into that mold. It uses those same tools, those same story elements.
And this is the key point.
Yeah.
It doesn't stay there. It takes that language of royal legitimacy.
And then flips it.
Yeah. It speaks the language only to kind of dismantle its grammar later on. It builds this amazing structure of power.
Yeah.
And then we watch it start to shake.
That's a great way to put it. It works both within and against the tradition. Creates this amazing tension.
So let's really dig into how it builds that initial world. The Hukyi lineage as this sacred thing, especially cantos the 1st to 3rd. The analysis breaks this down really well.
Yes, absolutely crucial. Canto 1, for example, it lays out the family tree, the Sakya genealogy. Traces it back to the sun, this ancient unbroken line. It's all about symbolic power through blood.
Just establishing that long, impressive lineage makes their power seem less random, right? More rooted, almost sacred because it's so old.
Definitely. Power made holy through ancestry.
Then Canto 2, that's the story of Queen Maya's dream, the miraculous conception.
Right. Another layer of legitimacy. This isn't just any birth, it's extraordinary. Divinely touched, maybe? It signals cosmic importance.
Like the universe itself is invested in this particular kid, this particular lineage. He's marked out, special.
And then Canto 3 goes into all the rituals, the big celebrations around the birth.
Uh-huh.
The poem frames reproduction itself having the heir as this huge cosmic event, not just a family affair. The royal family becomes the vessel for political continuity. Stability for the whole kingdom rests on this.
It really hammers home how important having that heir was. It wasn't just about family pride. It was about the state, the whole social order continuing.
And connecting this back to Bourdieu, all these literary techniques, the sacred ancestry, the miracle birth, the cosmic rituals, they all help naturalize the Sukya rule.
Makes it seem like the way things are supposed to be.
Exactly. Divinely sanctioned, woven into the fabric of society. It's creating symbolic capital, that's Bourdieu's term, through ritual, bloodline, even the fancy language of the poem itself.
Okay, so the stage is perfectly set. Divine connections, miracle birth, big rituals. Now, Cantos the 50V shift focus to the prince, Siddhartha. The analysis calls him a kind of political technology. What does that mean here?
Well, it's like his whole upbringing is engineered, basically, designed to make him the perfect ruler.
Like a modern corporation grooming the next CEO. Every lesson, every skill aimed at that one role.
That's a good analogy, actually. Canto 4 details his training. Martial arts, scriptures, statecraft, courtly manners. The works.
He's being programmed for kingship. Every aspect of his development is geared towards that future.
Precisely. And this fits right in with Bourdieu's idea of habitus.
Habit.
Yeah, those deep down ways of being, thinking, acting that you absorb through your upbringing. His education instills the habitus of a ruler. It prepares him, body and mind, for the throne. It's kind of symbolic inheritance itself.
Got it. More than just learning facts. It's about becoming the role.
Exactly. Then Canto V gives us his marriage to Yashodhara and the birth of their son, Rahula.
The heir arrives.
And the analysis argues this basically completes the reproduction of sovereign power.
Why is the marriage and birth the final piece?
Because marriage, for a prince like him, wasn't just personal, it was strategic. An alliance, essential for continuing the line, ensuring stability.
Right.
And having the male heir, Rahula, that's the absolute completion of the dynastic mission. The prince is now the fully realized symbol of succession. He embodies the future.
So he's got the lineage, the miracle birth, the right training, the strategic marriage, the essential heir. He's ticked every single box. The perfect future king.
By all expectations, yes, he is dynastic continuity. And the royal family itself is the main vehicle for the state's reproductive strategy. The bloodline is the state's future, in a way.
And this is where the whole thing takes that sharp, dramatic turn.
Yeah.
Cantos 6 and 7, breaking the line, as the analysis calls it. Renunciation as political refusal.
Absolutely. Canto 6 is the great departure. Siddhartha sneaking out of the palace, leaving his wife, his baby son.
Wow.
And it's not just him leaving his family, it shatters the symbolic continuity of the state. He's breaking that chain of succession deliberately.
It must have been utterly shocking in the narrative context. Everything the poem built up. He just walks away from it. The guaranteed future, gone.
Thrown into complete doubt. Then Canto 7 shows his transformation into an ascetic, cutting his hair, taking off the royal clothes, the jewels.
Shedding the identity.
It's presented as a symbolic death. The death of the prince as the reproductive subject, the carrier of the lineage. He's cutting himself off from that whole dynastic system, visibly and symbolically.
He's stripping away all that symbolic capital he inherited and earned, just letting it go. A total rejection of his role.
And thinking with Bourdieu again, this is a radical break with that whole logic of dynastic power. A refusal to accumulate or, crucially, transmit the symbolic capital that defined his position and secured the kingdom's future.
But the story doesn't just end there, with him alone, right? The later parts, the ones we have mainly from Chinese and Tibetan versions, they talk about the Sangha, the monastic community.
Yes, and that's fascinating too, because you see a whole new kind of social and spiritual order replacing the old dynastic logic.
How so?
Well, instead of marriage and heirs, you have celibacy. Instead of accumulating wealth, you have non-possession. And instead of passing down power through blood, the focus is on transmitting the teachings, the Dharma.
So spiritual sons, disciples, they become the ones who carry things forward, not biological heirs.
Exactly. It's a completely different model of continuity.
A spiritual lineage, not a blood lineage.
And the analysis makes the point that even Siddhartha's own son, Rahula, and his wife Yashodhara eventually become renunciants themselves.
Wow, so they follow him out of that royal system.
It's this powerful symbolic reversal. The very people meant to continue the dynasty choose the other path entirely.
It's like the poem offers this alternative form of reproduction, spiritual, based on practice and understanding, not biology.
Though it's worth noting, the analysis does kind of hint that even in the Sangha, new forms of symbolic power can emerge. Charisma being institutionalized, lineages of teachers. Power dynamics don't just disappear.
They just change shape, maybe?
Potentially, it's a different field with different capital dharma, not dynasty, but still a field where status and influence can play out.
That brings up another really interesting point from the piece Aśvaghoṣa. She plays this absolutely vital role, biologically, giving birth to the heir. But she's barely in the poem. Why is she so underdeveloped?
That is striking, isn't it? In many other Mahakavyas, the royal women, the queens, the mothers, they're often quite central figures, active in ensuring the dynasty continues, keepers of the lineage.
But Aśvaghoṣa is mostly silent, kind of in the background, despite being the mother of the future king.
The suggestion is that this ties back to the theme of renunciation. For Siddhartha's quest for detachment, things like feminine presence, sensual attachment, family love, these are often framed as potential obstacles, things to be transcended.
So her minimal role emphasizes what he's leaving behind, the domestic world, the attachments he needs to break free from.
That seems to be part of it. But the analysis also raises a really critical question about maybe a gendered asymmetry here.
How so?
Well, Siddhartha achieves liberation through renunciation, but Yashodhara, within the poem's main narrative at least, seems largely confined to that domestic reproductive role. She doesn't initially have the same path open to her in the same way.
It makes you think about who gets to renounce, who has the agency to step outside those roles, especially for women bound by expectations of family and motherhood.
Precisely. The poem's focus on male renunciation might inadvertently highlight that imbalance in who could access that path to liberation or step outside societal norms as radically as Siddhartha did.
Okay, so let's try and pull these threads together. The main takeaway from the analysis is that the Buddhacharita isn't just a religious story. It's really engaging critically with the whole ideology of state power in that classical South Asian context.
Definitely. It shows this deep understanding of how things like family, ritual, reproduction, things that might seem separate from politics actually form the very foundation of political power.
And because of that, Siddhartha's renunciation isn't just him finding personal peace. It's this act of, what was the term? Counter-sovereignty.
Counter-sovereignty, yeah. He's not just rejecting a crown, he's challenging the very basis on which that royal authority rests. Its legitimacy.
So it really pushes us to read texts like this, not just for spiritual guidance, but maybe also as social or political commentary.
I think so. And to see renunciation itself, not just as an escape, but maybe as a powerful way to break with dominant ideologies, an ideological rupture.
Okay, so recapping the key point. The Buddhacharita uses the Mahakāvya style, which usually props up kings, but it uses it to first show us exactly how dynastic power works, its reliance on family reproduction.
Meticulously depicts it.
And then it critiques that whole system
Yeah.
by showing Siddhartha walk away, offering renunciation as this radical alternative.
And by showing him reject his destiny, his expected role, the poem really questions that idea that political power is just natural or inevitable.
It revealed it more as a constructed system, something built on beliefs and practices, something that could be questioned or even refused.
Yeah, it's a really powerful move.
This whole deep dive, looking at the Buddhacharita through Bourdieu, it gives such a fresh angle on the text, doesn't it? Makes you think about how our personal choices connect to these bigger structures.
It really does. And maybe leaves us with a final thought to chew on.
Go for it.
Well, even today, how much do ideas about lineage, inheritance, family, how much do they still shape how we see power and authority in politics, business, maybe even other areas?
That's a big question.
Does this ancient story, the Buddhacharita, give us any tools for looking critically at those structures now? And maybe even more personally, could choices we make about detaching from conventional paths, conventional ideas of success or power, could those choices have wider ripples, affect how we think about leadership, legitimacy, what a good life even looks like?
It certainly makes you pause and think about the power of walking away, choosing a different path. Even today, lots to reflect on there.